We live on this incredible planet that's just teeming with life. It's this huge, complex, interconnected system, and we're all a part of it. But just how strong are those connections? And what happens when we start to pull at the threads? Well, let's find out.
Okay, I know this might sound like a bit of a riddle, but it's a really serious question. On one hand, you've got a puffin, just living its life out in the wild, and on the other, a plastic bag, a piece of human garbage maybe thousands of miles away. I mean, what could they possibly have to do with each other?
And believe me, the answer isn't just about one bird or one bag. It's actually the key that unlocks a much, much bigger story about the delicate balance of our world and, well, our place in it. So, to really get a handle on our impact, we first have to appreciate the beautiful complexity of how nature is designed. It's all about connections. All right, the big word here is biodiversity. It's not just about the number of animals, it's about the variety of species. Think about it. A tropical rainforest just buzzing with millions of different types of life has incredibly high biodiversity. The Arctic, on the other hand, with fewer species, has lower biodiversity. And that variety is exactly what makes an ecosystem strong and stable. And this right here shows that interdependence in action. Let's just trace this simple food chain. So it starts with algae. That algae gets eaten by these tiny little things called zooplankton. Then those zooplankton are eaten by sand eels. The sand eels become a meal for a puffin, and that puffin, well, it might get hunted by an Arctic skua. You can see how every single link depends on the one right below it. Okay, so what happens if we just break one of those links? Remember that plastic bag from the beginning? Here's where it comes in. Pollution, like plastic waste, can reduce the number of zooplankton in the water. All of a sudden, the sand eels have less to eat and their population drops. And that means the puffins have less food and the entire chain starts to crumble like a line of dominoes. It's a pretty stark example of just how fragile these connections really are. And look, this isn't just some abstract problem happening out there to animals. The reality is we rely on biodiversity for our own survival. It gives us our food, it's the source for so many life-saving medicines, and it creates these beautiful places for recreation that support entire economies through things like tourism. To put it simply, maintaining biodiversity is really about maintaining our own life support system. So the big question is, where is all this pressure on this delicate web coming from? Well, it turns out it's being driven by one single species, us. Get this. Back in 2012, for the very first time in history, the human population crossed 7 billion people. And it just keeps on growing. Every year, about 75 million more people are born than die. A number that big puts an absolutely enormous strain on the planet's resources. So why the huge spike? Well, honestly, it's for some pretty fantastic reasons. We've developed way better healthcare, so people are living longer lives. We have new medicines that cure diseases that used to be a death sentence. And our farmers have become incredibly good at producing more and more food. These are all triumphs of human ingenuity, but they come with consequences. And those consequences are really tipping the world out of balance. Our growing needs for space, for food, and for resources are directly impacting ecosystems everywhere you look. Let's take deforestation, for example. For thousands of years, humans cleared small patches of forest for a home, or maybe to grow crops to feed a family. But look at the contrast today. It's a whole different story. We are now clearing vast industrial-scale areas for things like cattle ranching, massive rice fields, and to grow crops for biofuels. The scale is on a completely different level. I really want you to let this number sink in for a second. In just the last 75 years, that's barely a single human lifetime, we've destroyed over half of all the world's rainforests. That's just a mind-blowing rate of change. And the result? It's as predictable as it is devastating. When you destroy a habitat, you kill the things that live there. Scientists actually estimate that several hundred species of plants, animals, and insects are lost every single day, partly because of this destruction. It's a direct assault on biodiversity. And hey, this isn't just happening on land. In the water, modern farming creates another huge problem called eutrophication. It's a tragic chain reaction, and here's how it goes down. First, excess fertilizers wash from fields into rivers. This overload of nutrients causes algae to just explode, and that blocks sunlight from reaching anything below. So the underwater plants die. Then, bacteria that decompose those dead plants use up all the oxygen in the water. And the final step? The fish and other animals suffocate.
A once living river becomes a dead zone.
You know, sometimes we cause huge problems just by introducing a new species where it doesn't belong. A classic example is the cane toad in Australia. They were brought in to control pests, but the plan, well, it backfired in the most spectacular way possible. First, they're poisonous, so they kill the native predators that try to eat them. Second, they're voracious eaters, so they decimate local insect populations. And third, they just outcompete the native species for food and shelter. It's a perfect storm of ecological disaster, all caused by one little non-native species.
Okay, I know it is really easy to feel a bit overwhelmed by all of this, but that is not the whole story. Because just as we are the source of the problem, we can also be the source of the solution.
That solution, it has a name, and it's called conservation. It's the active, hands-on work of preserving ecosystems and all the life they contain. It's about fighting back against the damage and trying to restore that critical balance.
And the good news is, people really are taking action. All over the world, there are these powerful examples of conservation at work. Zoos and charities are running breeding programs to bring species back from the very brink of extinction. Governments are creating huge national parks to protect vital habitats. And it's not just about stopping the damage. It's about repairing it. Reforestation projects are planting millions of new trees. Even small things like replanting hedgerows can create crucial little highways for wildlife. Change is happening. And really, this brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway from all of this. We are finally starting to get it. We're realizing that this isn't about saving the planet in some abstract way. It's about saving ourselves. Our future as a species is directly tied to the health and diversity of all the other species we share this world with. So when you put it all together, everything we've talked about today proves one thing. We depend on this intricate web for our food, our medicine, our very future. It is, without a doubt, our most valuable resource. So the only question left is, are we doing enough to protect it?